Hello! Today we went back into the vintage vault.
It's been forever since we've been there.
Yeah. So we dusted off the cobwebs off of this one. This is from 1978. It's a game called Checkpoint Danger. So this game was one, basically it's a, kind of a surrogate of a battleship.
Right.
But it has a little more meat to it, I think.
Absolutely.
Maybe it's got a little bit of mastermind combined into it.
For sure, I can see that in it.
So before we get into that further, though, make sure you hit that subscribe button and notification bell, because you don't want to miss out as we journey back and sometimes get lost in the vintage vault. Or
especially when he's got all his family over and there's a bunch of stuff
yeah,
on the
it's
way.
Thanksgiving, so happy Thanksgiving to everybody. Hopefully you had a great one. You know, ours, we just had our Thanksgiving dinner and then came back.
It was pretty good.
So just Rob, what can you tell us about this game?
Well, as Randy said, it's from 1978. There's no overall ranking, but it is rated at a 6.8. It's a two-player game, plays in about 30 minutes for ages 10 and up. It was designed by David Wells. There's no artist published, but it is made. It was published by Ideal Games. Now, there wasn't a whole lot out there, so if you're interested in finding a copy, I found one at Noble Knight for $30. That was the cheapest. Geek Market had one for $40 as well. But another way you can look at it is it was re-implemented into a science fiction version called Galaxis in 1980. So you might be able to find one or the other.
All right, so let's talk about the quality of components. I have to say,
I was impressed.
I'm pretty impressed with this. It's actually got a stand that if you take it out, it
is the lid
for the
covers
pieces.
all the components.
There's a little bit of yellowing since 1978, but not bad.
Not bad at all.
Yeah, it's held up pretty well.
And the lid stays in place really well.
Yes, it does.
I mean, it's got like a rubber tip on it, so that's why it kind of holds it in place. But so much better than modern covers. Because a lot of times the plastic covers, like on game trays or sometimes, they don't have that, section that kind of fits over and locks in place and just fall out, and it doesn't. It's pretty pointless.
Yeah,
or that's not going to be the case with this one.
No, I mean this actually was really ingeniously designed.
It really is.
The stand slides right up into the back to be your foot,
and tension keeps it in place. And it's just really neat.
Yeah, I was really surprised. I was really careful when I was taking it off.
Yeah, I was afraid to break it.
I was afraid because it was getting stuck at the bottom.
Right. You just had to twist a little bit.
I just turned it and it popped right off. Yeah.
But it's a very sturdy, very well-made game.
Yeah, you get solid plastic plugs, some of which have numbers that are painted on the ends of them, which are really unique.
And legible.
And then you have rubber markers to identify your bases, or it's actually your agents.
Yeah.
Those fit right into the board. They all have peg holes to go in. And then there's a hole in them so you can slide information tokens into those as well. So I have to say, I mean, battleships always had a nice containing unit in plastic and everything, and the holes at the top. But I think this is actually better designed.
I think so too.
So for this age of a game, I'm actually really impressed with this. I'm probably going to give this 8.5.
I was going to go at 9, just because as old as it is, now granted, you're pretty meticulous about taking care of stuff, so that might be part of it, but it's still an excellent condition for as long as it is. And so it's like you said, it's ingenious design for the board itself. I'm gonna go 9. I was impressed.
All right, so moving on to the theme. So I mean, it's kind of layered on you've got a map, and
it kind of feels Cold War-ish, kind of that vibe.
But you've got a map of the oceans. I don't know how you have unlimited sight in this game, but that's the one thing that's a little suspension of disbelief.
Right. Really good radar.
Yeah. But it only sees in verticals and horizontals and diagonals. There's no seeing in that full 360 spectrum. So I would think it would kind of make more sense if you could see shorter distances, but you could see everything that surrounds you. But that's not the way this works. And logically, I can see why they did it the way they did, but it's a little suspension of disbelief. From a thematic perspective, you do have, it's basically just a bland colored storage unit and pegs. There's not much to it. Yeah. The map is, there is a map, and it's got labels of names that make sense for the different geographic areas.
Right.
But you
but
can,
it's definitely layered on.
Yeah, you can see anywhere from the Antarctic to the Arctic on here somehow.
But, you know, I mean, for this, again, you know, other than the very few board games that came out that had a really good thing, like Dune or something like that, most games were like this. There was no theme.
Yeah, so, I mean, given the map and, you know, I can't really rate it high on theme. I'll probably give it like a 6.
I can't even say that. I mean, I guess that, I mean, it's a 5. I mean, I can't say it's any better than Catan, so.
All right, so moving on to the rulebook. So the rulebook actually it's a trifold.
Yep.
Not a big fan of that, but it
worked very well.
Yeah, it's 6 pages, pretty small. It's got pictures showing you how to set up everything and the pegs, and it's got the names of the pegs. And it does have counts of everything, which is unusual for the time period. Yeah. So you'll know if you lost any pieces or whatever, which is easy to do because of these little pieces. I mean, especially when I was 6 years old when I was playing this game, you know, I haven't counted to make sure we have all of them.
Well, I mean, I filled up most of my board and I still have pieces left, so probably all there.
Actually, it says assorted probes and eliminators, so I'm assuming that it doesn't have counts for everything because it's got counts for these rubber pieces. But yeah, it's possible some of the pegs are missing. But the rulebook's divided into the play section, which shows kind of how to set up your board. It shows how you can see, line of sight. It goes through and kind of goes through how you do your targeting. It's a little bit different than Battleship. Which I think we'll talk about when we do gameplay, but I like it better. Yeah. So it's not just a matter of hit or miss. You know, you're getting information whenever you target.
And
sometimes
I think
a little too much information.
Yeah. But I think that was a good example of mastermind that you gave. We'll explain.
Yes. It was it was
a little one-sided.
Yeah. My forces did not hide themselves very well at all. I think they should have turned the beacons off that were on them. So anyway, section on how to win the game, and then it's got a little advice on strategy, which I probably should have read. You would think your red ones would have attracted more attention.
You would have thought
to see than my yellows.
Not in this case.
No. All right, but all in all, I mean, it's effective. It got us into the game very quickly.
Very quickly.
Not impressed with the look of it, but it's just a piece of paper.
But for 1978,
1978, that's what you get.
That's what you got. Because I mean, I can't say Axis and Allies looked any different.
No.
So
I mean, it didn't have any confusion.
Nope.
Got through it easy, quick read.
I understood well enough.
Yep. I may not have. I'm gonna go ahead and give this one. I mean, a 9. It's got everything.
It got everything you need. So. All right, so let's talk about gameplay.
So you start the game out. You're putting in. You've got 4 pegs of that represent your agents that are rubber pegs.
So I was red and he was yellow.
Yes, and you can choose however you want to distribute them. It's it does say not to put them like in the 4 corners. Is probably not a great idea.
Right.
You can put them, but you can put them anywhere you want. Then red always goes first, and red then will call out a row, which is labeled from Bering, Canadian, there's Arctic, Bering, Canadian, Desert, Equator, Fiji, or Glacier, and then a number going from 1 to 9 across the top.
And so
once you get that vertex, or those two meet, you're going to look from that point in every row, every column, and every diagonal and see how many of your agents can be seen there, and you're going to give that number back in return. So
it's going to be 0 to 4.
Yeah. So if you can see 2, then they're going to choose the peg that has the number 2 at the top. I chose that a lot during this game. And they're going to put it in because then they know that somewhere along one of those vertices they can see 2. Now, the trick is there could actually be more than 2, but if you have 2 of your agents in the same row or vertex or, it's axis, I should say.
It blocks line of sight.
Yeah, it blocks the line of sight. So they thought of that. So I thought that was pretty cool.
Yes.
But, yeah, so you can somehow look around the curvature of the Earth. Maybe it was back in 1978. There was still that flat earther movement going.
That's a good point.
Mm-hmm. You can basically then kind of deduce where things are as you start triangulating all that information. And what's really good is if you get a 0, though, which you got on your opening salvo.
Yes, and then I got it a second time, like my third option.
So whenever you get a 0, you can't see anything, so they got these little X's.
All directions.
Yes, so these X's you can just plug in, and it rules out a ton of spaces.
And that's why you see all this white on my board, is because that first, I was almost right in the middle of the board. So I was able to eliminate 40% or 30 to 40% of the board off of my first call.
Yep.
So that really helped me out a lot.
So for me, I just kept getting information of 2 or 1 pretty much the entire time.
And at the end, we compared, and he was always hitting right next to where my agents were.
Yeah, he had coincidentally placed all of his agents. 3 of his agents were 1 to the left of mine.
Yeah.
And then the other one was 1 away, but it was a diagonal. So we were like thinking on the same exact wavelength.
And what's interesting is if you call a coordinate that is on the exact same spot as if let's say I called here and I think his is on the same spot, I have to call out that basically checkpoint danger, which tells him that's my dude.
Yeah.
But I have to call that out because I think that's his. And if I hit, great, but then he knows where to hit.
Yeah.
Or if I miss, I automatically lose that agent because I called him out.
You don't want to do that until you're pretty confident.
You're pretty confident, and it's like the last one.
Game.
Right.
Yeah. Because you get to, if you hit, you get to take another turn. But if you miss, you've given that information to the other player that you have your agent there, and
you lose it.
You lose your turn, so they get to automatically hit there for free.
Right.
Probably the only way I would have actually hit one of your agents. So the other thing is, whenever they call out a location, you put a white peg in on your board. You can't go there. You can't call that vertex. So you have to choose a different axis and point to call out. So it rules out possibilities for you to target the other players. So that causes a little bit, you can play some defense there by putting stuff in there you don't want them to know, blockading that space. So I thought this was a clever, well thought out implementation to be a competing product to Battleship.
Absolutely.
It's kind of a shame that Battleship was the more popular game.
I know, because I think that just that element of being able to deduce where stuff's out, where Battleship, your first hit's usually lucky, but then good luck within 2 or 3 tries of figuring out which direction the ship points. You have no clue. Whereas this way, I mean, you're able to use that logic and be able to zone in on things, I think, a little bit easier than what you could do for Battleship.
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely more strategic thinking to this.
Yeah, for sure.
Than there is to Battleship, where you're just calling random numbers and taking pot shots.
Right.
So I thought this was, definitely a fun game, and I'm glad I kept it over the years.
Yep.
And
I think you and Alex would probably like this a lot.
I don't know if Alex would play it or not.
You don't think so?
I don't know.
What about Sarah?
Maybe.
She's that good. She's kind of analytical.
Yeah.
So I think she could do it.
She may look at it and think, "Oh, that's old Dad." Yeah. But yeah, I mean, this is one I'm glad I got off the vintage
for sure.
shelf.
I was pleasantly surprised and enjoyed it quite a bit.
All right. So as far as a score, what are you thinking?
I can't go any lower than an 8. I thoroughly enjoyed it. It gives me the same vibes as Battleship, but it's just a little bit better because a little bit more strategic and a little bit, you're able to kind of think your way through it, whereas Battleship's a little bit more lucky. So, and plus it just looks cool. I mean, it just looks good for a 1978 game. So
yeah, I wish it wasn't as bland as it is as far as the casing. But yeah, I mean,
even that I'm okay with it because the map makes up for it. Because the map is pretty colorful, and I don't want to look at the case if I'm looking at the map.
I should point out it's got actually labels. Oh, there's the numbers they were talking about. I just saw them.
Oh yeah, I do see them.
So
now.
it's got the names of the different sections on here. They actually put onto the case. It tells you what number to put into each spot and what are the types of pieces that go in each one.
And a lot of companies don't do that to this day.
Yeah.
And that's just a good idea.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, this has got better stuff than some of the game trays.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. That is from 1978.
Take a hint.
Yeah, so I mean, this is really a well done game.
Yeah, pretty innovative.
I'm probably right with you on that. That 8, I think.
Yeah.
You know, not that I'm a huge Battleship fan.
Nor am I. I mean, it's fun every once in a while, but
yeah, but there's more thought to it.
Absolutely.
So yeah, if you have that itch to play some classic board game, but you want something a little more advanced,
I've played this one way before Battleship. Now that I've played this, I don't think I would want to play Battleship.
Right. So I'm right with you. I think this is the one for me. This is just like we have the Clue Master Detective is our preferred Clue, or now there's even newer versions that are not Clue. Yeah.
Awkward Guess, sorry.
Yeah, Awkward Guess. So we've got games we would rather play in that same genre.
Right.
This, if I'm trying to think of a Battleship game, this is exactly the one I would want to play. So, well, that's our thoughts on Checkpoint Danger!
Exclamation marks.
So if you got a chance to play this in your past, or maybe you were nostalgic and had it back when you were a child, let us know down below.
Absolutely.
Bye.
Bye. Yeah, I'm surprised at just how clever a game this is. And it's hilarious that I got 2 zeros.
Stupid game.
Pigs are stupid.
Yeah. It's the problem. I don't know what numbers are.
Counting's hard.
Why are there ones on these pigs?
Yeah, where's electronic Checkpoint Danger?
You sunk my hopes and dreams, Rob.